My name is Anna Cronin, my business is Wild Pickle, and I've just run a ferment festival in Stoke-on-Trent, teaching workshops and talks and demonstrations on fermentation, and with music and Morris dances, lots of fun. It's been over a long period of time. So in 2017 I went along to a fermentation festival it was the first Welsh fermentation festival at a cider farm, and I took my daughter and a friend of mine, and we went to lots of little workshops and then authors of books, fantastic fermenters. And what the feel of it was, and I ran a children's fermentation workshop, so everybody had their hands in, it was all outdoors and it was beautiful. And I hadn't seen one single festival like that after that event. So I think it was partly from a needed to make more of a bang. You know, I invited Jules, Plucky Pickle of Manchester, to who you could argue was my competitor. But if you look at that, that's quite isolating in itself, or you collaborate and you do something big, which is what we did on Saturday, by inviting everybody within 4 professional foragers. There was how many fermenters, within that do very similar things, the workshops and things like that, or producing all to the same space. This has come to my town where I run my workshops from. I mentioned to you that, Jules, who came, Plucky Pickle, who did the kombucha workshop, during lockdown we were collaborating and pulling together to bulk buy. Where glass was an issue, price was an issue. By clubbing together, it meant that both of us could work together. Or, if she was going to the wholesaler, she could pick something up for me. Do you mind if Plucky Pickle picks up wild pickles, cabbages, and the rest? In 2021, a Fermenters Guild was set up. Within that guild are guidelines and ethics, and I believe that the people coming on board, same for the Association of Foragers, you need to be proposed and seconded, and people need to know that your practices are ethical and sustainable, that you're singing the right message.
I have some of the most interesting conversations through the Fermenters Guild with people who are professionally incredibly nerdy about fermenters food, and I learn so much from them. It's an incredible group of people, and I'm honoured to be a part of them.
Simply put, it's a transformation of foodstuffs by organisms. We're guiding bacteria and yeast to consume the sugars within food, and as a byproduct they produce carbon dioxide, acids and more bacteria.
The organism is the mycelium, which is this, and it's normally grown in a solid substrate, but this is growing in a solution. So it's basically water with nutrients, I guess, and he's growing it in here so that he can remove small amounts to then inoculate a solid substrate.
Very simple food technology. Under the brine, then you're fine. Kind of putting, keeping it below the brine to keep it safe. The lactic acid produces acid and acidifies the ferment, produces that acid, then makes it drops its pH below 4.6, which is above that botulism survives. The addition of the salt acts to deter certain pathogens, and creating that environment for the lactobacillus species means that they proliferate and they make it inhospitable to other pathogens, a very resilient bacteria. And then after a period of time, the food product is acidic enough and it's food safe. It makes a food safe product. So it's the oldest, safest form of food preservation there is. Health, absolutely. We have massively high levels of deprivation within Stoke-on-Trent, probably one of the worst in the country, and diabetes and obesity, the consumption of ultra-processed foods.
67% of adults and children are obese or seriously overweight, and it is so important that we understand the foods that we're putting into ourselves that are making us ill, that are making us unhealthy, and we're learning today about food and techniques that will improve our diet and make us that much healthier.
I think we're second behind the US in terms of the volume of ultra-processed foods. People aren't cooking anymore. People don't know how to make a fermented food, which would mean that you could preserve a food very easily with low cost, low impact, and no preservatives in it, and it will have the same shelf life, if you like, and if not be cheaper. So there's all those things that I know that we have access to. So it's really worrying. And I think that is probably a real impetus for me to create a festival to say this is real food. Yeah. Come and try it, because a lot of people don't know what it is. There isn't the education. We aren't taught within the home. These skills are not being passed on from grandma to mum to the child, because mum hasn't got time to cook. Mum hasn't got time to ferment. But again, boiling back to being time poor. It speaks for itself. Sauerkraut and kimchi, funky ferments sold out completely. The mushroom kits all sold. He had nothing left. You know, all the kombucha off my stall and things like that, all sold. Milk, kefir grains, the whole, everybody did really well. I mean, I was worried, are people going to spend money, are people going to buy books? And they did, so from that point of view.
I have had a fantastic time here at the Ferment Festival in Stoke. It's been amazing. There's been such a good energy, so many brilliant, engaged, curious people who want to learn about fermentation, who want to learn about interesting and unique foods and how they're made, and it's been a real joy. I think it's such a great event, so well organised and put together, and it's really engaged with the local community. I'm thrilled and honoured to have been a part of it.
The day has been absolutely fantastic for us. I've had a great opportunity to meet with lots of people with an interest in different fermented products, asking questions about the beer brewing and fermentation process. It's been really exciting to share some of our beers and introduce ourselves to some new customers as well.
Martin from Agriton selling the bokoshi bins, I was like, is he going to, and he said talking to people who understood an element of the fermentation in the first place was a pleasure, to not have the battle of, starting from scratch, if you like.
Anything else living in that system, but also there's bacteria in that system. So if you can then dominate the good bacteria from bad bacteria, the result is you then decrease pollution. So in Japan, they have massive parties.
Go and, do corporate sales, but then on the other side of things, I want to be able to go and teach people who can't afford fermentation the skills. So if we can do the foraging and ferment workshops as an example, taking people out into nature and helping them to connect, I think creates a self-confidence and that connection. I think you need to be out there and absorb it for people to say to you, if you look closely to this leaf, it's mindfulness as well as identification. So I guess when I'm thinking of corporate events, and then most companies have budgets for well-being, and I feel that is something that we should be working towards.
So it's been incredible. The vibe was superb, incredibly positive, and I couldn't have asked for more. I'm really falling out. It was brilliant. My mum and dad came.